Most people think they already know what Buddhism is about. You probably heard it said 1,000 times. Life is suffering. And that single phrase has shaped the way millions of people, especially in the West, see the Buddha's teachings. But here's the shocking truth. The Buddha never said that. What he really taught is far more subtle, far more powerful, and actually filled with hope. Think about it. If the Buddha had simply declared, life is suffering, what would that leave us with? A bleak worldview, where the best we could do is accept misery as inevitable. That's not a path. That's resignation. And yet, Buddhism has endured for over 2,500 years, not because it preaches despair, but because it points to freedom, clarity, and a brightness that cuts through all confusion. The story begins with a man named Anathapindika, a generous merchant who one day asked the Buddha, "Who are you?" The Buddha replied, "I am an awakened one." Imagine hearing that for the first time, that someone had truly awakened beyond the cycles of craving and pain. For Anathapindika, it was like sunlight breaking through clouds. And that's the essence of Buddhism, not gloom, but light. In this video, we're going to explore why 99% of people misunderstand Buddhism, why the Buddha's first teaching wasn't about despair but about possibility, and how this ancient wisdom can still transform our lives today. Stay with me until the end, because we'll uncover not just the truth of suffering, but the path to its end, a truth that could be the key to living with more peace, freedom, and real happiness than you ever imagined. Let me be real with you. For the longest time, I thought Buddhism was all about sadness. Everywhere I looked, people repeated the same line, life is suffering. And honestly, that never sat right with me. I kept asking myself, if life is just suffering, then what's the point? Why would anyone follow this path for over 2,000 years? And then I discovered the truth. The Buddha never said that life itself is suffering. What he actually said was much more practical and much more hopeful. There is suffering. That's a huge difference. He wasn't declaring life to be a punishment. He was simply pointing out a fact, like a doctor saying, "Here's the problem. Now let's find the cure." Think about how this plays out in our own lives. We chase after things, money, success, beauty, attention, because they sparkle like gold. But sooner or later, they slip through our fingers. The job we dreamed of doesn't make us happy forever. The relationship we clung to changes or ends. Even our own body, no matter how much we take care of it, eventually weakens. That's the suffering the Buddha was talking about, not life itself, but our constant clinging to what can't last. When I realized this, it felt like someone turned on the light in a dark room. Buddhism isn't about being negative. It's about being honest. It's about saying, yes, there's pain, but there's also a way out. And that's what makes this teaching so powerful. It gives us hope, not despair. Now, before we go deeper into this journey, I want to ask something from you. If you find value in these reflections, if you've ever questioned life the way I did, hit the like button, share this video with someone who might need to hear it, and leave me a comment about your own experiences with clinging and letting go. And of course, don't forget to subscribe, because in the next parts, we're going to dig even deeper into how these ancient truths can actually change the way we live today. Let me tell you a story that might sound very familiar. It's not just about one person. It could be about you, me, or almost anyone living in today's world. I once had a friend who believed, with all his heart, that happiness was just one step away. As long as he could earn more money, he told himself, if I can just work harder, if I can just reach that next promotion, that next deal, that next milestone, then I'll finally be happy. So he worked, day after day, night after night, chasing deadlines, closing contracts, making sacrifices. And yes, in the end, he achieved exactly what he wanted. He bought the big house. He drove the shiny new car. He wore the expensive clothes. On the outside, he had everything people usually associate with success. But then something strange happened. One evening, after all the noise of the day had quieted down, he sat alone in that beautiful house. And he felt empty. He called me and asked, almost in a whisper, "Why do I still feel so restless? Why do I still feel unsatisfied, even though I got everything I once dreamed of?" That moment struck me deeply, because it revealed a truth the Buddha had taught over 2,500 years ago. The suffering we experience doesn't necessarily come from poverty or lack. It doesn't even come from the challenges of life itself. Suffering arises from the clinging, from that restless desire inside of us that always says, "It's not enough. I need more. I need it to last forever." And if you pause and reflect, you might realize the same pattern in your own life. Maybe it's not money for you. Maybe it's recognition. You think, if only people respect me more, then I'll finally feel complete. Or maybe it's relationships. If only I can find the right person, then I'll never feel lonely again. But when you do get those things, a new kind of suffering appears. The fear of losing them. Suddenly, your joy becomes fragile. Tide conditions are always changing. This is what the Buddha meant when he spoke of suffering. He wasn't saying life itself is misery. Far from it. He was pointing out the very human habit of grasping, of holding on too tightly to things that are by nature impermanent. The job, the house, the relationship, even our own health, they all change. They rise, they fall, they slip through our fingers whether we like it or not. And here's the powerful part. The Buddha didn't stop with identifying this problem. He didn't leave us stuck in despair. Instead, he offered a way forward, a way to understand the roots of our suffering, so we could actually begin to free ourselves from it. Think of it like a doctor. If a doctor simply says, "You're sick, and that's just the way it is," that's depressing. But if the doctor says, "Here's the diagnosis, and here's the treatment," suddenly there's hope. That's exactly how Buddhism works. It doesn't label life as hopeless. It shines a light on why we feel this constant dissatisfaction, and then it offers us tools to break free. Let's go back to my friend for a moment. When he realized that his endless chasing wasn't bringing peace, he started to look inward. Instead of asking, "What more can I get?" he started asking, "Why am I never satisfied with what I already have?" And slowly, something shifted. He began practicing mindfulness. He learned to notice his cravings without automatically obeying them. He discovered small moments of peace, like enjoying a meal without rushing or listening deeply to his family without being distracted by work. And you know what? He still works hard. He still has goals. But now, his happiness isn't chained to them. When things go well, he enjoys it. When things change, he doesn't collapse. That's freedom. Not freedom from life, but freedom within life. And here's where I want to connect this back to you. Take a moment to reflect. What's the one thing you've been chasing, believing it will finally give you peace? Has it worked? Or do you find, like my friend, that even when you get it, the satisfaction fades and the hunger comes back stronger? If you've ever experienced that cycle, then you've already tasted exactly what the Buddha was describing. And the good news is you don't have to stay trapped in it. You can step out. You can loosen your grip. You can learn to find contentment that doesn't vanish the moment circumstances shift. That's what this journey is about, not rejecting life, not turning away from joy, but seeing clearly that clinging is the root of our restlessness. And when we see that, a whole new kind of peace becomes possible. Now, If this story resonates with you, even just a little, let me know in the comments. Share your own experience. Have you ever achieved something you thought would make you completely happy, only to find that the satisfaction didn't last? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And of course, if you're finding value in these reflections, take a second to like this video. It helps more than you might realize. Hit the share button to pass along to a friend who might be chasing their own endless cycle right now. And don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next part, where we'll dig deeper into the second noble truth, the real root of suffering, and how understanding it can open the door to lasting freedom. In the last part, we explored the idea that suffering isn't about life itself being hopeless. It's about how we cling to things that are constantly changing. Now, let's go one step deeper into the Buddha's teaching, the cause of suffering. The Buddha described it very simply. He said that the root of our suffering is craving, that constant thirst inside us that always wants more, that wants things to last forever, or that wishes unpleasant things would just disappear. It sounds simple, but if you look closely, you'll see how this craving shapes almost every part of your daily life. Think about it. How many times have you been scrolling on your phone, not because you're enjoying it, but because you can't stop? That's craving. How often do you catch yourself thinking, if only I had that new gadget, that new outfit, that new car, then I'd finally feel good about myself? That's craving too. And what about those moments where you just wish a difficult situation would vanish instantly? That's the flip side of craving, wanting to push away what we don't like. I once heard someone compare craving to being thirsty, but drinking salt water. The more you drink, the more desperate you become, because it never truly quenches your thirst. That's exactly how desire works. It promises satisfaction, but instead, it keeps us restless, always chasing, never at peace. And here's the thing. Craving isn't just about material stuff. It goes deeper. We crave attention. We crave recognition. We crave permanence in relationships. Sometimes we even crave a version of ourselves that doesn't exist. The perfect me we think we should be. But reality never matches perfectly with these cravings. That gap, that tension, is where suffering is born. But let's pause here. Does this mean the Buddha wanted us to stop enjoying life? Absolutely not. He wasn't against joy or love or beauty. What he pointed to is the difference between enjoying something and clinging to it. You can enjoy a flower without needing it to stay fresh forever. You can love someone without demanding that they never change. You can appreciate success without letting your entire self-worth depend on it. That's the wisdom hidden in the second noble truth. It's not about rejecting life. It's about seeing clearly how craving keeps us on a treadmill that never ends. When we recognize craving for what it is, we already begin to loosen its grip. So let me turn the question to you. What cravings keep showing up in your own life? Is it the craving for more money, more recognition, more approval? Or is it the craving for control, wanting life to unfold exactly the way you planned? Take a moment to reflect on this. And if you're open, share your thoughts in the comments. You'd be surprised how much lighter you feel when you simply name the craving out loud. And if this reflection is giving you something to think about, don't forget to hit like on this video. It tells me you want more content like this. Share it with a friend who might also feel stuck in that endless chase. And of course, subscribe so you won't miss the next part, where we'll move from identifying the cause of suffering to discovering the possibility of ending it. Because yes, the Buddha's message doesn't stop at the problem. It leads us to freedom. So far, we've seen that life isn't doomed to misery. It's our craving, our endless grasping, that keeps us trapped in dissatisfaction. But here's the part that makes Buddhism so powerful and honestly so inspiring. The Buddha didn't stop with the problem. He revealed something revolutionary. Suffering can end. Think about how radical that is. Up until then, most philosophies or religions focus on accepting fate, begging the gods for mercy, or resigning yourself to life struggles. But the Buddha said something entirely different. Liberation is possible here and now for ordinary human beings like you and me. Let's make this concrete. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack every single day. At first, you think that's just the way life is. You're supposed to carry it. You're supposed to be tired. And everyone else seems to be doing the same. But then one day, someone tells you, you can actually put that backpack down. That's what the Buddha was saying. We don't have to keep carrying the burden of craving and attachment. The end of suffering doesn't mean a perfect life where nothing ever goes wrong. It means a shift inside, where we no longer cling so tightly, no longer let every change in life shake us to the core. It's peace. It's freedom. It's the ability to enjoy the good without being enslaved by it, and to face the bad without being destroyed by it. This state is often called nirvana, but don't let the word intimidate you. It's not some faraway heaven or mystical place. Nirvana literally means blowing out, like blowing out a flame. What flame? The flame of craving, the flame of hatred, the flame of ignorance. When those flames die down, what's left is a coolness, a clarity, a freedom of heart. And here's the beautiful part. You don't have to wait until the end of your life to taste it. Every time you let go of a craving, even for a moment, you taste a little bit of nirvana. Every time you forgive instead of holding on to anger, you touch nirvana. Every time you accept change with grace, you experience what freedom feels like. I remember once sitting with someone who had gone through a painful breakup. At first, they were consumed by loss, by the desperate craving to bring things back to how they were. But slowly, through reflection and practice, they began to let go. And one day, they said to me, I finally feel light again. The sadness is there, but it doesn't own me anymore. That's it. That's the glimpse of liberation the Buddha was pointing to. So let me ask you this. What backpack are you carrying right now? What craving? What attachment? What fear has been weighing on your shoulders? Imagine, even for a second, what it would feel like to set it down. That's not fantasy. That's the promise of the third noble truth. If this idea resonates with you, take a moment to like this video, because it helps me share this message with more people who might be struggling under their own heavy backpacks. And drop a comment. What's one thing you'd love to let go of if only you could? Sharing it might be your first step toward actually putting it down. And of course, subscribe so you'll be here for the next part, where we'll talk about the practical path the Buddha laid out. The exact steps anyone can follow to move closer to that freedom. Because yes, it's one thing to know that suffering can end, but it's another thing to actually walk the path toward that ending. And that's exactly what we'll explore next. Up to now, we've walked through three incredible truths. First, we saw that life has suffering, not because existence itself is hopeless, but because of our clinging. Second, we uncovered the real cause of that suffering, craving and attachment. Third, we discovered something life-changing, that suffering can actually end, that freedom is possible. But here's the big question. How? How do we actually move from knowing all of this in theory to experiencing peace in real life? That's where the fourth noble truth comes in. The Buddha didn't just leave us with philosophy. He gave us a practical path, a roadmap anyone can follow. It's called the Noble Eightfold Path. Now, don't be intimidated by the name. It's not 8 separate commandments. It's more like 8 aspects of a balanced way of living. and they all work together, supporting each other like spokes on a wheel. Let me walk you through them, not as abstract ideas, but in a way you can apply right now. The first is right view. This simply means seeing life as it really is. It's like putting on clear glasses after years of blurry vision. Instead of chasing illusions, like thinking money, fame, or even relationships will make us permanently happy, we start to see that everything is changing and that true peace comes from within. The second is right intention. This is about shaping our inner attitude. Instead of being driven by greed, hatred, or selfishness, we nurture intentions of kindness, compassion, and letting go. Imagine how different your day would feel if you woke up each morning with a simple intention. Today, may I cause no harm, may I help where I can. Next comes right speech. Words are powerful. They can heal or they can hurt. Practicing right speech means being truthful, gentle, and thoughtful. It doesn't mean we never speak firmly, but it does mean we stop using words as weapons. Think of the last time someone's words lifted you up. Imagine becoming that person for others. Then there's right action. This is how we live with integrity. It's choosing actions that don't harm ourselves or others. Simple things like being honest, being respectful, living in a way that we can look back on without regret. Fifth is right livelihood. This one often gets overlooked, but it matters. It means earning a living in a way that doesn't cause harm. Work takes up so much of our lives. Why not make it something that aligns with our values instead of going against them? The sixth is right effort. Notice this isn't about exhausting ourselves or pushing endlessly. It's about applying energy wisely, nourishing good qualities in ourselves, and letting go of harmful ones. It's the difference between forcing and flowing. Seventh is right mindfulness. This is probably the most famous one today. It's the practice of being fully present, aware of our body, our feelings, our thoughts, without being lost in them. When we're mindful, life stops rushing past us, and we actually live each moment as it unfolds. And finally, right concentration. This is about training the mind to be steady, focused, and calm, like a lake that reflects clearly because its surface is undisturbed. With a concentrated mind, we see more deeply, we act more wisely, and we rest more fully. Now, maybe you're thinking, 8 steps? That sounds overwhelming. But here's the secret. The path isn't about perfection. It's about direction. Even a small step toward right view, right intention, or right speech can bring more peace into your life. You don't have to master it all at once. You just have to begin. The beauty of a Noble Eightfold Path is that it's not about blind faith. It's something you can test like an experiment. Try being more mindful today. Try speaking more kindly. Try letting go of one craving. And notice how it feels. That's Buddhism, not dogma, but practice. So let me ask you, which part of the path do you feel drawn to start with? Is it mindfulness? Is it speech? Or maybe intention? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know where your journey begins. And as always, if this breakdown of the Eightfold Path has given you something valuable, please hit like on this video. It's a simple action, but it helps so much. Share it with a friend who might be searching for a way out of stress and restlessness. And of course, subscribe to the channel, because in the next part, we'll explore how these teachings aren't just ancient philosophy. They're living wisdom we can apply in the middle of our messy modern lives. Because at the end of the day, the path isn't about escaping the world. It's about learning to walk through it with clarity, compassion, and freedom. Now that we've explored the Eightfold Path, let's zoom in on what it actually looks like in real life. Because let's be honest, it's one thing to hear about mindfulness or right speech in theory, but it's another thing to practice it when your boss is yelling at you or when you're scrolling through social media and someone leaves a nasty comment. So let's make it practical. Take right speech, for example. In the Buddha's time, it meant speaking truthfully, kindly, and wisely. Fast forward to today, it also means how we comment online, how we reply to messages, and even what we choose to share. Think about the last time you saw a heated argument on Facebook or TikTok. Most of the time, people are just throwing fire on fire. But imagine if even one person paused and said something calm, thoughtful, maybe even compassionate. That's right speech in 2025. It can change the entire tone of a conversation. Then there's right livelihood. For many of us, our job is where we spend most of our waking hours. The path asks, are we working in a way that harms others or in a way that contributes positively? Now, not everyone can quit their job overnight, but we can ask smaller questions. Is the way I work honest? Am I adding value, or am I cutting corners? Do I sleep at night feeling proud of how I earn my money? Even small shifts, like being more ethical in business decisions, are part of the path. And right mindfulness, this one might be the hardest in modern life. We live in an age of endless distraction. Notifications, emails, Netflix, ads, you name it. But mindfulness isn't about rejecting technology. It's about how we use it. Maybe it's choosing to eat one meal a day without scrolling. Maybe it's pausing before reacting when someone annoys you. Imagine what happens when you bring even 2 minutes of mindfulness into your morning. It can set the tone for your entire day. Another big one is right effort. So many of us misunderstand effort. We think it means grinding 24/7, no breaks, hustle culture. But right effort is different. It's not about burning out. It's about channeling your energy wisely. It's noticing when negative patterns are forming, like jealousy, anger, or envy, and choosing not to feed them. And it's also about watering the seeds of joy, gratitude, and kindness. This isn't exhausting. It's empowering. And let's not forget relationships. How many arguments could be softened if we practice right intention? Coming into a conversation not with the goal of winning, but with the goal of understanding. That shift alone can transform marriages, friendships, even workplace conflicts. Here's a story that stuck with me. A friend once told me about his boss, someone who was always under pressure, always quick to snap. One day, instead of snapping back, my friend decided to just listen quietly and respond with calmness. To his surprise, the boss softened. Later that week, the boss actually apologized. That moment, choosing compassion over anger, was right action in real life. The Eightfold Path isn't about escaping to a cave or monastery. It's about bringing wisdom into daily struggles. It's about asking, in this moment, am I feeling more suffering or am I opening the door to freedom? So, if you're watching this, here's a challenge. Pick just one aspect of the path and practice it today. Maybe it's mindful eating. Maybe it's one kind comment online. Maybe it's being honest at work even when it's hard. Just one step. Because every step counts, and every step leads you closer to freedom. And if this part of the video sparks something for you, please drop a comment sharing which step you'll try first. Don't forget to like this video. It really supports the channel. Share it with someone who might need a reminder that peace is possible right here, right now. And of course, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next part, where we'll dive even deeper into how these teachings open the door to something beyond ordinary happiness, the true brightness that the Buddha pointed toward. Because in the end, the path isn't just about living better, it's about living freer. When people first hear about Buddhism, they often stop at the line, life is suffering, and they walk away thinking it's all doom and gloom. But the Buddha never said life is only suffering. What he actually pointed to is that while suffering exists, so does the way out, and that's where the brilliance shines through. Think about it this way. If a doctor told you, you're sick but there's no cure, you'd feel hopeless. But if the doctor said, you're sick but I know the treatment, and if you follow it you'll recover, that changes everything. That's exactly what the Buddha did. He diagnosed a human condition, craving, clinging, dissatisfaction, but he also gave us the medicine, the path to liberation. And this is why Buddhism is not pessimistic. It's one of the most optimistic teachings in history. It doesn't deny the pain of life, but it promises that we can be free from being controlled by it. In fact, the Buddha used the word nirvana, which literally means extinguishing, like blowing out a flame. Not extinguishing life, but extinguishing greed, hatred, and delusion. When those fires go out, what's left is peace, clarity, and joy. Many teachers describe this as the brightness of life. Imagine walking through a dark tunnel and suddenly stepping into daylight. That's what awakening is like. It's not about avoiding problems or pretending suffering doesn't exist. It's about realizing that beyond all the chaos, there's a stillness, a freedom, a light that's always been there. And here's the beautiful part. You don't have to wait until some distant future to taste this. The Buddha taught that even small moments of awareness, kindness, and letting go are glimpses of that brightness. When you choose patience instead of anger, you're touching it. When you're truly present with a loved one instead of distracted, you're living it. When you stop chasing and start appreciating, even for a moment, you're already free. This is why millions of people throughout history have turned to the Dharma. Not because it tells them life is miserable, but because it shows them life can be brighter than they ever imagined. It's not about believing in something far away. It's about waking up to freedom that's already within us. So, if you've ever thought Buddhism is negative, let me challenge you. Look again. What you'll find is not a teaching of despair, but a teaching of hope, joy, and liberation. And that hope isn't theoretical, it's practical. It's in the Eightfold Path. It's in your breath. It's in your next decision. Before we move to the next part, let me ask you this. Have you ever had a moment, even just a second, where you felt completely free? No worry, no craving, no fear, just peace? If you have, drop in the comments below. Your story might inspire someone else who needs to hear it. And don't forget, if you're finding this video valuable, like it to support the channel, share it with a friend who might be carrying heavy burdens, and of course, subscribe so you don't miss the next part. Because coming up, we'll talk about how this path to brightness isn't just about personal peace. It's about transforming the world around us. Because when one person awakens, they shine. And that light can spark something in others until whole communities glow. And that brings us to the end of this journey. We've walked together through the misunderstandings about Buddhism, the truth behind suffering, the Eightfold Path, and the brightness of life that the Buddha revealed more than 2,500 years ago. If there's one thing I hope you take away, it's this. Buddhism is not about despair. It's about freedom. It's not about giving up. It's about waking up. And it's not about darkness. It's about light. But remember, this isn't just something to listen to and then forget. These teachings only come alive when you try them. Even one small step, a moment of mindfulness, a kind word, an act of honesty, can change your day and little by little your whole life. So now, I want to hear from you. What part of today's talk spoke to you the most? Was it about mindfulness, about right speech, or about the brightness of nirvana? Drop your thoughts down in the comments. I love reading your reflections, and they might just inspire someone else in this community. And if this video brought you any clarity, peace, or even just a new perspective, please don't forget to like this video. because it really helps spread the message. If you know someone who's struggling or searching for meaning, share it with them. You never know whose life it might touch. And of course, if you want to keep walking this path together, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next video. There's so much more we're going to explore. Practical wisdom, timeless stories, and insights that can bring light into our daily lives. Thank you for spending your time here with me today. May you be safe, may you be peaceful, and may you always remember, no matter how dark things feel, there is always a way to the light.